Imagine this. You're trekking through the Himalayas, miles from civilization. Suddenly, you get an urge to check Twitter. Impossible, right? Not with Starlink. Elon Musk's ambitious project promises high-speed internet access from a constellation of satellites, beaming down connectivity to even the most remote corners of the globe. It's a tantalizing prospect, especially for a country like India with its vast rural landscape and digital divide. No more struggling with spotty cell service or relying on expensive earthbound infrastructure. Just you, a Starlink dish, and the vast expanse of the internet. What could possibly go wrong? Now, I know what you're thinking. John, this sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? Well, my friends, as with most things involving billionaires launching things into space, there are a few caveats. See, traditional internet providers rely on those giant metal towers you see dotting the landscape, you know, the ones pigeons use as luxury condos. Starlink bypasses all that with its fancy satellite network. But here's the thing, those satellites aren't just floating up there for our browsing pleasure. They're controlled by a single company, answerable to a foreign government. And that's where things get a bit sticky, especially for a nation like India with its own strategic interests and cybersecurity concerns. Enter the Kutneti Foundation, an Indian think tank that's been waving its arms frantically about Starlink. They've even gone so far as to call it a wolf in sheep's clothing. Dramatic, sure. But are they wrong? Kutneti argues that Starlink's close ties to the US government, particularly its intelligence and military branches, pose a significant threat to India's national security. Remember those satellites we talked about? Turns out they have a bit of a dual-use problem. Think of it like a Swiss Army knife. Great for opening a can of beans, not so great if someone decides to use it for, well, less wholesome activities. Kutneti also points out that Starlink operates outside the traditional governance structures of telecommunications. With traditional internet providers, there are layers of regulations and oversight. Governments can monitor traffic, block certain websites, and generally keep an eye on things. But with Starlink, it's a direct line from your device to their satellites and back again. No middleman, no pesky regulations. Now, I'm all for sticking it to the man, but when the man is trying to prevent foreign powers from potentially accessing sensitive data, maybe a little oversight isn't such a bad thing. So where does India stand on all this? Well, the Indian government, known for its love of bureaucratic hurdles, has unsurprisingly thrown up a few roadblocks for Starlink. The communications minister has made it clear that no free passes will be given. Starlink needs to comply with India's security norms, and that's not a suggestion, it's a demand. They've also made it clear that Starlink can't just waltz in and start beaming down internet without proper licensing. Essentially, India's saying, look, Elon, we appreciate the offer, but we're not just going to hand over the keys to the digital kingdom without a thorough background check. And then there's the Elon Musk factor. Now, I'm not one to gossip, but let's just say Elon's political affiliations and, shall we say, unconventional behavior haven't exactly inspired confidence in the Indian government. His public spats with world leaders, his cozy relationship with certain regimes, and his penchant for tweeting before thinking have all raised eyebrows in New Delhi. It's like trying to negotiate a delicate trade deal with a toddler who's just discovered the joys of a megaphone. So what's the verdict? Is Starlink a game-changer for India or a Trojan horse? The truth, as always, is a bit more nuanced. On the one hand, the potential benefits are undeniable, bridging the digital divide, providing internet access to remote areas, boosting economic growth. These are all worthy goals. But on the other hand, the security risks are real and cannot be ignored. India needs to tread carefully, ensuring that any agreement with Starlink prioritizes national security and data sovereignty. It's a delicate balancing act, one that requires careful consideration and a healthy dose of skepticism. Because when it comes to billionaires promising us the moon and the internet, it's always wise to read the fine print.